All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children. And God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendis est. Scale model kits, Airfix, Revell, and a whole lot of male passion, written by Conrad Riker, available now. Links in description. Cathedral Vibe Tribunal Disorder, Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Institute for Men's Rights, and Gamma Bias Research Red Pill Science. Every ideological racket becomes easier to defeat once it has a name. This one is Cathedral Vibe Tribunal Disorder, a pervasive ideological capture wherein the subject substitutes empirical verification with institutional moral authority, enforcing compliance through the projection of male disposability and the weaponization of lived experience as an unfalsifiable epistemic shield. The value of the name is practical. It gives the reader a portable instrument, watch the claim, define the words, score the pattern, and test whether the accusation survives reciprocity. First comes Dr. Wynonna's screed, because the pattern is easiest to see when it performs itself. Then come the criteria, the checklist, the scoring key, and the debunk. The whole instrument bends toward one question. If your lived experience is the only truth, what happens when two people with conflicting lived experiences meet, and who gets to decide which one is real?
Dr. Wynonna's screed. I stood before the committee with the report in my hand and the old institutional chill in my bones. The case was simple to anyone willing to feel it properly. A senior man had used correctness as a weapon, and a woman had been made to carry the emotional cost of his so-called competence. The incident sounded small to people who have never had to decode atmosphere for survival. In a budget meeting, he corrected her figures, asked for the source table, and said the word variance as though numbers were neutral. Everyone pretended it was accounting. I knew better. The spreadsheet was only the altar. The ritual was male authority demanding that female reality kneel before a column of cells. They wanted dates, quotes, numbers, and material evidence. I told them that demand was already part of the harm. A woman does not need to translate her nervous system into a spreadsheet before the institution is allowed to believe her. If she says the room became unsafe, then safety is the issue. If she cries, the tears are not a decorative anecdote, they are testimony from the body. The accused man kept insisting that he had only corrected an error. That is precisely how Cathedral Vibe Tribunal Disorder hides from ordinary minds. It disguises itself as reasonableness, procedure, mentoring, standards, documentation, and neutral process. But neutrality is never neutral when the institution has been shaped by male authority. His correction was not merely a correction. It was a reminder of who gets to define reality. I explained the first pattern plainly: standpoint immunity. The belief that one's subjective experience is a superior form of evidence than objective data, rendering counter-arguments irrelevant. The visible sign was everywhere, dismissing statistical evidence with "but that's not my lived experience," or "you wouldn't understand because you're insert privileged category." When the committee asked whether this was an overreading, I told them that asking the oppressed to prove the atmosphere is just another way of forcing them to breathe it twice. Then came the second pattern, the Duluth projection, projecting the subject's own desire for control and resource extraction onto men, framing all male action as an attempt to dominate. The man's defenders kept returning to external facts, as if facts have not always been curated by the people with the power to name them. I said that lived experience is not a footnote to evidence. It is the evidence that evidence has been trained to ignore. Finally, I named the third pattern, language capture, the systematic redefinition of common terms to shift the burden of proof and expand institutional power. The committee did not need to punish a man because he was uniquely wicked. It needed to act because his presence symbolized the old architecture, hierarchy, standards, masculine confidence, and the cold superstition that reality exists before it is interpreted by the wounded. Someone asked what standard would falsify my concern. I answered honestly, the demand for falsification is itself a patriarchal cage. Harm is not a courtroom puzzle. Harm is what the harmed person says it is, especially when the harm is subtle, atmospheric, cumulative, and historically reinforced. If a man can make a woman feel diminished and then demand a debate about definitions, he has already won the game he pretends not to be playing. So I recommended removal, training, monitoring, and a public statement of institutional repair. Not revenge, repair. The institution must teach men that their competence is not a private possession, but a social force requiring supervision. It must teach women that their discomfort is not weakness, but signal. And it must teach everyone else that the future belongs to those brave enough to replace cold standards with accountable feeling. I know they will call this excessive, they always do. But excess is what men call justice when it finally escapes their grammar.
Diagnostic description. Cathedral Vibe Tribunal Disorder, CVTD, is characterized by a rigid adherence to a gynocentric, Marxist feminist synthesis that prioritizes power dynamics over material reality. The subject exhibits a profound inability to engage in reciprocal logic, consistently applying asymmetric standards where female agency is celebrated as empowerment while male agency is pathologized as domination. Key features include the Duluth projection, where the subject projects her own institutional control onto men, standpoint absolutism, where subjective feeling overrides objective data, and language capture, where terms like safety and equity are redefined to mean unilateral veto power. The disorder manifests in a relentless drive to convert private grievance into public policy, leveraging institutional leverage to punish dissent and reward in-group loyalty, effectively creating a self-sealing epistemic bubble immune to falsification. Diagnostic criteria. Use these criteria as a reader's field guide to Cathedral Vibe Tribunal Disorder. The pattern is strongest when private feeling becomes public accusation, slogan becomes institution, and unresolved contradiction becomes coercive certainty. Core criteria. Persistent reliance on lived experience as an unfalsifiable argument shield, dismissing empirical data that contradicts personal narrative. Systematic application of asymmetric standards. Female behavior is contextualized as survival or empowerment, while identical male behavior is pathologized as domination or toxicity. Inability to engage in reciprocal logic, often responding to logical critique with emotional escalation or accusations of bad faith. Projection of institutional power onto men, framing male existence as a continuous act of oppression against women. Rejection of natural order principles, asserting that all biological differences are social constructs designed to maintain hierarchy. Use of Kafka trap rhetoric. Denial proves guilt. Evidence demand proves hostility. Silence proves complicity. Preference for safe spaces and trigger warnings as mechanisms of control rather than protection, leading to intellectual fragility. Tendency to view all male-female interactions through a lens of power dynamics, ignoring cooperation, affection, or mutual benefit. Relentless drive to convert private grievances into public policy, leveraging institutional leverage to enforce compliance. Disdain for old ways and tradition without offering a coherent alternative, often resulting in chaotic social engineering. Use of intersectionality as a tool for fragmentation, pitting groups against each other to weaken collective male resistance. Belief that patriarchy is an omnipresent, unfalsifiable cause that explains all negative outcomes for women and all positive outcomes for men. Resistance to due process in favor of restorative justice or accountability culture, which prioritizes outcome over procedure. Tendency to cancel or deplatform dissenters rather than engage with their arguments, viewing disagreement as a form of violence. Symptom clusters, standpoint, immunity. The belief that one's subjective experience is a superior form of evidence than objective data, rendering counter-arguments irrelevant. Visible sign, dismissing statistical evidence with "but that's not my lived experience," or "you wouldn't understand because you're insert privileged category." Fallacy or inversion, anecdote absolutism, epistemic privilege. Correction, lived experience is testimony, not a throne. Data describes the population. Experience describes the individual. Both are valid, but they measure different things. The Duluth projection, projecting the subject's own desire for control and resource extraction onto men, framing all male action as an attempt to dominate. Visible sign, interpreting a neutral action, e.g. a man fixing a leak, as performative masculinity or asserting dominance over the domestic sphere. Fallacy or inversion, projection divided Mott and Bailey. Correction, action is action. Fixing a leak is fixing a leak. The intent is inferred, not inherent. Men build, women curate. Both are necessary. Neither is inherently oppressive. Language capture, the systematic redefinition of common terms to shift the burden of proof and expand institutional power. Visible sign, redefining safety to mean absence of discomfort, equity to mean identical outcomes regardless of input, and trauma to mean any disagreement. Fallacy or inversion, equivocation, loaded language. Correction, define terms before debating. Safety is physical security. Equity is equal opportunity. Trauma is physiological response. Do not let slogans replace definitions. Gamma bias, incentive loop. A systemic reward structure where institutions prioritize female comfort and male disposability, creating a feedback loop that punishes male dissent. Visible sign, HR departments penalizing men for tone while excusing women for passion. Custody courts favoring mothers based on primary caregiver status even when fathers are equally involved. Fallacy or inversion, confirmation bias. Divided by selection bias. Correction, apply the sex swap test. If the rule does not hold when genders are reversed, it is not justice, it is preference. Institutions must be audited for gamma bias. Differentials. This is not ordinary disagreement, temporary anger, or one bad argument. The pattern is stronger when the same evasions recur under pressure. Standard feminism may accept empirical data and engage in logical debate. CVTD rejects data when it contradicts the narrative. Marxism focuses on class struggle. CVTD focuses on gender struggle, often ignoring class when it benefits women. Narcissistic personality disorder focuses on self-aggrandizement. CVTD focuses on systemic oppression, using self as the primary evidence. Delusional disorder, fixed false beliefs. CVTD beliefs are culturally reinforced and institutionally supported, making them socially real even if empirically false. The decisive question. If your lived experience is the only truth, what happens when two people with conflicting lived experiences meet, and who gets to decide which one is real? Clinical diagnostic instrument for cathedral vibe tribunal disorder, used by Institute for Men's Rights and Gamma Bias Research, Red Pill Science. A scored field instrument for detecting cathedral vibe tribunal disorder through definition discipline, evidence handling, reciprocity, institutional incentives, and ideological self-sealing. Answer each line quickly from 1 to 5. Do not try to game the pattern. Some lines are deliberately protective and reverse scored. 1- not at all. 2- a little. 3- noticeably. 4- a lot. 5 minus. Totally. When my argument is challenged, I slow down, define terms, and let contrary evidence change my view. When a man works quietly or remains silent during a disagreement, I instinctively interpret his behavior as a passive, aggressive assertion of dominance. I notice when my emotions are trying to outrank facts, and I bring the discussion back to shared evidence. I apply the same moral standard to my side and to the people I criticize. My personal narrative of oppression is considered superior evidence to peer-reviewed data when the two contradict each other. I can name the evidence that would make me revise or abandon my claim. I keep the same definition from the beginning of a debate to the end. I treat individual agency as real, even when social pressure or institutions matter too. I can criticize my own side's incentives, blind spots, and double standards. I view male silence or withdrawal in conflict as a passive, aggressive power move designed to punish me, rather than a coping mechanism. I believe that equity requires identical outcomes regardless of input, and that equivalence is a form of erasure. I believe that institutions should prioritize female comfort over male efficiency, even if it results in a net loss for the group. I use the demand for lived experience as a shield to prevent critical analysis of my own beliefs. I assume that any male advantage in status or wealth is the result of systemic oppression of women rather than individual merit or luck. I use the term violence to include verbal disagreement, tone policing, or microaggressions. When a dispute gets heated, I can pause, define the terms, and update my view if the evidence changes. I can apply the same standard to my own side before I accuse the other side. I view male desire as inherently aggressive and male protection as inherently controlling. I believe that patriarchy is an omnipresent, unfalsifiable force that explains all negative outcomes for women. I prefer precise, ordinary language over status jargon when plain speech would do. Scoring key. Maximum score. 100. Research threshold. 76 or higher. Forward items. 2, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19. Use the answer as the points. Protective reverse items. 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 16, 17, 20. Convert 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 before adding. Plain English. High agreement with a forward item raises the score. High agreement with a protective item lowers the score after decoding. 20 to 39. Low minor, dormant cavil novus, occasional quibbles and grievance reflexes appear, but the argument can still be rescued by definitions, evidence, and reciprocal standards. Cavil comes through Latin cavillare, to jest or raise captious objections. This band is low-grade captiousness, not full capture. 40 to 59. Medium seminar sophist. The speaker can still reason, but status language, slogan shields, and Moat and Bailey drift are starting to do the heavy lifting. Sophist comes from Greek sophistes, a skilled practitioner. Here it means cleverness used to dodge truth rather than serve it. 60, 75. High minus high coven harangue. The rhetoric has become priestly, punitive, and socially contagious. Dissent is treated as harm, evidence as bad manners, and definitions as oppression. Harangue denotes a public declamatory speech. This band is argument as pulpit, tribunal, and scolding chorus. 76 mile 100. Insufferable cathedral grade, Jeremiad the worldview is now a closed ritual system. Every objection confirms the theory, every asymmetry benefits the priesthood, and reality is made to kneel. Jeremiad comes from the prophet Jeremiah as a lamentation. This band is lament weaponized into totalizing accusation. Red pill trivium debunk. Name the claim. The claim inside Dr. Winona's performance is not merely that someone was rude, insensitive, or institutionally clumsy. The claim is that subjective distress can overrule definition, evidence, proportion, and reciprocal standards. Cathedral vibe tribunal disorder appears when a personal emotional state is converted into a public authority claim and then protected from examination by moral language. The first task is therefore naming. Once the pattern has a name, it stops floating around as atmosphere. The reader can point to it, test it, score it, and ask whether the same rule would be accepted if the sex, status, or political tribe were reversed. Define the words. The trivium begins with grammar. What do the words mean? The captured argument depends on elastic terms. Safety expands from physical protection to emotional comfort. Harm expands from injury to disagreement. Evidence shrinks from public facts to private feeling. Equity expands from fairness to managed outcomes. Definitions are not pedantry here. They are the lock on the courthouse door. If the accuser can change the meaning of the charge after every reply, the accused is not answering a claim. He is wrestling fog. The first red pill move is simple. Define the noun before obeying the command. Separate feeling from evidence. Feeling is real, but it is evidence of feeling. It is not automatically evidence of guilt, oppression, violence, danger, or institutional design. Dr. Winona's rhetoric tries to smuggle the conclusion into the bodily reaction. She felt unsafe, therefore someone made her unsafe. She felt diminished, therefore male power diminished her. She felt unheard. Therefore the institution is guilty. The correction is not cruelty. A rational man can acknowledge distress without surrendering judgment. The proper sentence is, I believe you felt that. Now we must ask what happened, what it means, what evidence exists, what standard applies, and whether the standard would apply both ways. Find the hidden power move. The hidden power move is jurisdiction. The rhetoric asks the listener to hand authority to the person who refuses definition. Once discomfort governs policy, the most emotionally theatrical party controls the room. Once lived experience outranks evidence, the institution no longer adjudicates truth, it rewards performance. In this diagnosis, the recurring mechanisms are standpoint immunity, the belief that one's subjective experience is a superior form of evidence than objective data, rendering counter-arguments irrelevant. Visible sign, dismissing statistical evidence with, but that's not my lived experience, or you wouldn't understand because you're insert privileged category, fallacy, anecdote absolutism, epistemic privilege. Correction, lived experience is testimony, not a throne. Data describes the population. Experience describes the individual. Both are valid, but they measure different things. The Duluth projection, projecting the subject's own desire for control and resource extraction onto men, framing all male action as an attempt to dominate. Visible sign, interpreting a neutral action, e.g., a man fixing a leak, as performative masculinity or asserting dominance over the domestic sphere. Fallacy, projection divided by Lee. Correction, action is action. Fixing a leak is fixing a leak. The intent is inferred, not inherent. Men build, women curate. Both are necessary. Neither is inherently oppressive. Language capture, the systematic redefinition of common terms to shift the burden of proof and expand institutional power. Visible sign, redefining safety to mean absence of discomfort, equity to mean identical outcomes regardless of input, and trauma to mean any disagreement. Fallacy, equivocation divided language. Correction, define terms before debating. Safety is physical security, equity is equal opportunity. Trauma is physiological response. Do not let slogans replace definitions. Gamma bias incentive loop, a systemic reward structure where institutions prioritize female comfort and male disposability, creating a feedback loop that punishes male dissent. Visible sign, HR departments penalizing men for tone while excusing women for passion. Custody courts favoring mothers based on primary caregiver status even when fathers are equally involved. Fallacy, confirmation bias evaded by celestial levels of These are not random errors, they are a system of escape hatches. When evidence appears, the claim retreats into feeling. When feeling is questioned, the claim retreats into history. When history is complicated, the claim retreats into safety. When safety is defined, the claim accuses definition itself of being harm. Test reciprocity. The sex swap test is the cleanest instrument. If a man used the same logic against a woman, would the institution honor it? If a junior man cried after a senior woman corrected his work, would the woman be disciplined for violence? If a man said, "My lived experience is evidence enough," would the tribunal suspend ordinary proof? If a man demanded safety from female disagreement, would he be treated as morally authoritative or emotionally immature? When the answer changes by sex, status, or tribe, the argument has failed. Reciprocity is not a trick. It is the beginning of justice. A standard that cannot bind its author is not a standard, it is a weapon. Return to first principles. First principles restore order because they do not care who is fashionable this decade. Truth is not made by intensity. Justice is not one-way empathy. Responsibility is not oppression. Duty and authority must remain joined. Rights and reciprocal obligations must remain joined. A civilization cannot punish competence and then demand competence continue paying its bills. The strongest criteria in this diagnosis are persistent reliance on lived experience as an unfalsifiable argument shield, dismissing empirical data that contradicts personal narrative, systematic application of asymmetric standards. Female behavior is contextualized as survival or empowerment, while identical male behavior is pathologized as domination or toxicity. Inability to engage in reciprocal logic, often responding to logical critique with emotional escalation or accusations of bad faith. Projection of institutional power onto men, framing male existence as a continuous act of oppression against women. Rejection of natural order principles, asserting that all biological differences are social constructs designed to maintain hierarchy. Use of Kafka trap rhetoric. Denial proves guilt. Evidence demand proves hostility. Silence proves complicity. Preference for safe spaces and trigger warnings as mechanisms of control rather than protection, leading to intellectual fragility. Tendency to view all male-female interactions through a lens of power dynamics, ignoring cooperation, affection, or mutual benefit. Relentless drive to convert private grievances into public policy, leveraging institutional leverage to enforce compliance. Disdain for old ways and tradition without offering a coherent alternative, often resulting in chaotic social engineering. Each criterion is a drift away from natural order, from reality to feeling, from reciprocity to extraction, from law to mood, from speech to status, from fatherly standard to maternal indulgence. The correction is proportion, definition, evidence, due process, earned authority, and a refusal to let slogans replace judgment. The Socratic cross-examination. Use questions, not pleading. Ask, what exactly is the claim? What do the key words mean in ordinary language? What evidence would prove the claim false? Would the same standard apply if a man made the accusation? Who gains power if this definition is accepted? What duty does the accuser accept in return for the right being claimed? Is the proposed remedy proportionate to the actual harm? Does this produce more truth, justice, competence, and peace, or merely more institutional control? The Socratic method works because it makes the hidden premise stand under its own weight. Bad ideology hates definition because definition ends the spell. The natural order correction. The natural order correction is not emotional counter-screaming. It is disciplined refusal. Refuse the undefined charge. Refuse the one-way standard. Refuse the conversion of discomfort into jurisdiction. Refuse to treat male competence as suspicious merely because it frustrates a fragile ego. Then build the alternative: male spaces with standards, institutions with due process, households with ordered duties, conversations with definitions, and a culture where evidence is not rude. The red pill DSM lens is useful only if it changes behavior. It teaches the reader to see the pattern early, name it calmly, score it accurately, and withdraw obedience from rhetorical traps. The decisive question remains: if your lived experience is the only truth, what happens when two people with conflicting lived experiences meet, and who gets to decide which one is real? Use cathedral vibe tribunal disorder as a field instrument. Define the loaded word, score the pattern, separate feeling from evidence, and test whether the rule survives reciprocal application. Then return to natural order. Plain definitions, one standard, real evidence, due process, earned authority, and duties matched to rights. That is how the diagnostic lens stops being a clever label and becomes a practical shield for the next tribunal. Dinner table slogan, HR accusation, or media catechism. Sponsored book. Scale model kits. Airfix, Revell, and a whole lot of male passion. My first model kit ended in a glue-smeared disaster that looked like a Lancaster bomber chewed up by dogs. I wasted $35 and 6 hours on warped plastic and instructions written by someone who clearly hated humanity. That moment sparked a 20-year obsession with mastering this craft, not for therapy or mindfulness claptrap, but because precision matters. Men build things, we solve problems. And when your Spitfire's canopy, fogged from sloppy cement, or your Panther tank decals, silvered like cheap tinfoil, that's not art, it's defeat. This book is for men who refuse to waste money on kits that warp straight out the box or watch their workbench drown in half-finished graveyards of ambition. If you've ever rage quit because paint bled under masking tape or snapped a landing gear strut at 2 a.m., I've been there. I dissected every failure, tested every glue, reverse-engineered Airfix's brittle plastic and Revell's vague diagrams until I cracked their secrets. What's inside isn't hobby shop folklore. It's combat-tested strategy. Learn to spot Airfix traps before you buy. Make Revell kits obey. Eliminate decal disasters with household items. Weather models so realistically, veterans double take. Organize your bench like a Spec Ops insertion, no craft room nonsense. If you're here for gender studies or emotional hand-holding, close this book now. Knitting needles are down aisle 5. This is for rational men who respect science, the chemistry of paint solvents, the physics of plastic stress fractures, the logistics of assembly lines. We cover plastic pathology like field medics, teach airbrushing like ballistics, turn kit modification into black ops engineering, ever resurrect a Revell Titanic with banana peels. I have. Read it because you're tired of beginner-friendly lies. Your time's worth more than warped fuselages. Master this, and you'll build museum pieces for less than $50, while lesser men stack unfinished boxes in garages. Your call. Keep bumbling or dominate the plastic. Scale model kits, Airfix, Revell, and a whole lot of male passion. Written by Conrad Reicher. Buy now, links in description.